what we're going to do is talk about, I'll go through my PowerPoint real quickly, and this will be a PowerPoint that your soldier will see when he or she comes home. But what I want to do is tailor-make the class to any concerns or questions that you guys have, and to provide you with the resources so when you leave the class, you're going to feel like you've got some things on board to questions answered, or at least a point in the right direction for resources and things like that. So what I'm wondering is if we could just go around the room and share our names and our soldier, where he or she is stationed, and also the names and ages of our kids. So, would you like to start?
I would love to start,
okay,
sure.
Great.
My name is Sarah, and my soldier is at Kemp. And we have a 4.5-year-old son together. And if I could get anything out of this, I would like to know more about the separation anxiety. My son will often, when he gets in trouble, start crying for Dad. But as soon as everything's fine and Dad calls on the phone, he refuses to talk to him. And so just making sure that when we come home, even when he was home for the short 2 weeks, he did separate himself from his dad quite a bit. And just to make, his dad not feel so bad about it, but know that my son can get their relationship back together. He has 2 deployments as well, so.
Oh, okay.
He'll be missing 3 of his birthday parties, and he'll be just 5. So.
Wow.
So it's, yeah.
A lot. So this 18 month, and then when was the other?
It was 9 months. It was shortly.
Year and a half before.
Yeah, a year and a half before that. So.
Wow. And to Bosnia or to
Bosnia?
Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Darn.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Donna. I'm Sarah's mom, and I guess I'm just here to see what she and her son and boyfriend are going to go through and have gone through. So just kind of support to her.
Oh, wonderful.
Her and her sister.
I got great support.
Awesome. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, wow. How great. Well, I'm glad that you're
We
here.
also have a daughter who asks a lot of questions. So
Oh, okay.
she's fine.
Oh, okay.
They're almost brother and sister.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, great. Okay. Wonderful. How about for you?
I'm Sheila. This is also our second deployment. Our first one was Bosnia. This is Alex. He's almost 10. He's our oldest. And Bailey is 7.5, and we have a 3-year-old daughter. She'll be 4, and she's missed 3 of her 4 birthdays. And he is at Camp Fallujah.
Okay.
I'm Carmen. My soldier's at Camp Fallujah. We don't have any children. He has 2 nephews though that ask questions, and then I'm also here to support her.
Wonderful. Wonderful friend.
I'm Missy. My soldier's at Camp Fallujah, and we have 2 sons, 9 and 6-year-old, and this is our second deployment too.
Bosnia before.
Yep.
Had you guys all known each other then before? Okay. Wow.
And I'm Sally. I work at Moorhead ECFE, and Kathy had asked me to come here today to help relay some community supports.
Well, first of all, I want to start off by thanking you all for your service, and for the boys. Thank you for the sacrifice that you're making as families. I think that that's something that is often not really even acknowledged or known about, but just the hardships that families go through and children go through. So. And extended families go through. So thank you for your sacrifice that you've made for our country. I'll go through this PowerPoint, and then I'll kind of spin through it. You'll see it again in April when your soldier comes home. And then I really want to get to some specific questions that you guys have, okay? So, help for the combat veterans. I wanted to start off by identifying the issues that children face. Children thrive on routines, and there's been a lot of change in your child's life, from pre-deployment to deployment, and also with reintegration. And they've also been under a developmental change as the months have gone by. And as well, environmental change. From not having a dad in the home and not having him and then having him again. So there's a lot of change that your child, issues that your children face. So where do we start? What I want to say that is helpful for starters, the Gertises alluded to this morning, that your soldier is going from being in the battle, being a warrior, to coming back and becoming a citizen. And that's a hat that they have to put on and the transition that they have to make. But also, the huge transition also comes with taking off that soldiering hat or even the citizen hat and putting on the dad hat is a huge change and a change that they need to be intentional about when parenting. So thinking about that, just even taking off the one hat and putting on another is kind of, I think, a nice image to think about in terms of something that's needful in terms of the transition. One of the things I think that's really helpful in parenting is understanding the stage of your child's development. Have you guys found that to be helpful? Understanding that? In every stage of your child's life, they have a developmental job. From being a baby, even prenatally, but from birth until adulthood, we all have a developmental job to do. And I think what's really helpful is understanding what that job is and knowing what are typical behaviors that children have. What is a typical behavior of a 4-year-old? What is a typical behavior of a 9-year-old? Is helpful in terms for the combat soldier to understand how to respond to their child. They've been gone for 18 months and their child was one way developmentally, and now they've made a huge change to this next stage of development. And in terms of helping them reconnect, I think that's a place to start. And I have some resources at the back of the table that talk about these specific stages. And so familiarizing where their child is at developmentally when they come home is really important. And also knowing where their child has come developmentally, where they're going, and also where their partner has been. What has it been like for you? Using those communication routines is really important, and opening up the lines of communication. And also understanding about reintegration, knowing what that's like in terms of what to expect. And that's hopefully what this whole seminar will be helpful for you and for your soldier. So the ages and stages are really a critical piece of understanding and knowing the typical behaviors and knowing also the helpful parent behaviors. What are helpful ways to respond as a parent, and what are unhelpful behaviors? And those are all outlined in the handout. And also there are specific affirmations that we can give our children based on their developmental job, and so those are outlined as well. These are the stages, and they are all different. Let's see. I'm trying to think of how old is our youngest child in this group? Did someone say they had a 3-year-old?
3-year-old daughter.
3-year-old, okay. And then the oldest would be 9?
Yep.
Okay, so you've got a span of the 3 to 6 where they're really separating fantasy from reality. They're trying to figure out who they are. It's kind of like the first adolescence, and learning that, how to navigate through, with power and relationships. And then when in the 6 to 12 phase, that's all about structure and rules, learning when and how to disagree. It's all about the rules. And so you've got a lot of different things that your child is going through developmentally, and understanding those are really important. Another thing that comes into play is temperament. And there's a lot of really great resources out there available, and this is another helpful thing for the soldiers to understand is more about their child's temperament. And I think certain temperamental characteristics can be viewed right off at infancy. You can really start to see some of those things. And some become more obvious as they grow and change. There's a really good book called Your Spirited Child by Mary Shidi Kurchinka, that she's a local author that talks a lot about temperament. And there's even online resources that are available on temperament. And so that's another really important piece in terms of parenting.
I don't think that any of Mary Shidi Kurchinka's books are all very good.
Yes.
Kids, Parents, and Power Struggles, they all deal with temperament.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, another piece is understanding that there's no such thing as a perfect parent. And I think for every one of us, we need to know that it's okay to make mistakes, and we will make them, and that there's no such thing as a perfect parent. And the nice thing about parenting is that you can look at, we all come with our own parenting history, and we bring everything to the table of how we were parented. And maybe you haven't liked how you were parented in one stage, so you can change those behaviors and you can make changes and parent differently as parents. And the same goes for the soldier. Maybe he has made or parented in a way that he hasn't liked in the past, and now that he can use this time to make changes. So that's a good thing, is that you can delete things that don't work and try new things. Another piece to reintegration is the whole grief piece, and one of our marriage therapists talks a lot about ambiguous loss. That, you know, it's really very present in every part of the cycles, whether it's pre-deployment to deployment to reintegration. There's a huge loss that takes place in our lives as our children's either grandparents or the spouse, the mom, but as in the soldiers' lives as well, and also the children's. And that looks different for everybody. That's the thing that makes it more challenging, is trying to identify, you know, where is this behavior coming from, or, you know, why, why the anger, or why, you know, what is this behavior like, you know, what does it mean? A lot of it is understanding that grief is a real important and understandable piece of this, and just how to navigate through it and dealing with it is important. And anger is actually a sign of grieving too. It's actually a secondary emotion. A lot underlying can be, you know, sadness that is filtered through anger. So getting a handle on feelings, I think, is really important. Not only our own feelings and the soldiers' feelings, but also our children's feelings. And, you know, kind of recognizing those, acknowledging those, and also, you know, trying to help, you know, with tools to handle, you know, the various emotions that our children face and that we're facing and that our soldier faces as well. And that's a whole different piece than your soldier is dealing with, a whole different level than your soldier is dealing with right now. You know, he's very single focused, he's mission minded, and now to come back, there's a lot of complexity, as Gertis has alluded to, the grayness, and for your children too. So communication is really important, and for older kids, this is really great, you know, because they have the cognitive ability to do this back in terms of making the I statements, you know, feeling statements. I feel this way because, but for younger kids, it's great role modeling for us to be able to take responsibility for our feelings too. This is how mommy's feeling, grandma's feeling this way. For a young 3, they're learning about feelings too. A lot of them are at 3 being able to really identify feelings, anger, sadness, happiness, and to make statements about I'm feeling angry or whatever too. But to acknowledge that is really important, that feelings are just feelings. There's no wrong or right feeling, it's just where it's at, you know, and being able to figure out ways and tools to help children express those feelings, you know, in terms of anger, you know, hitting isn't okay. Well, let's figure out a different way to handle it here. So acknowledging feelings and doing that is really important, and also making it developmentally appropriate. For a 3-year-old, being able to name the feelings, there's feeling games, and Sally will tell you a lot of ECFE more about that and some of the fun things that you can do around feelings. For school-age kids, journaling is really great in terms of being able to get feelings out, and there's some other resources I think that are available for school-age kids, books and different things like that too, that will help with feelings. So acknowledging feelings is really important, and it's important for the soldier to also be able to say how they're feeling. That communication routine again. These are some ideas on reconnecting, and the one piece that I think is really important is for the soldier. A lot of times I've heard soldiers say that they feel like a stranger in their own home, that they don't feel like they're really there. I mean, that they're not able to be a part of the group yet. And in some respects, they can use that to their advantage in that they can just take it easy and watch their child. In Iraq, they've had to observe a lot and use those observing skills a lot in the battlefield. And they can use that observation skill at home as well in terms of just watching their child and letting their child take the interaction at their child's pace. I think that that's a worry that that attachment, that reconnection will not happen. It's a worry. Will the child reject dad? I think it's normal for children to take time to, weigh in with the whole situation. And for others, they're right on it, but then for the soldier, that might be too much. So opening up the lines of communication and making it an okay situation to take it slow, I think is a good thing. And letting the child lead and watching them, watch how the child is responding. Looking at the new interests that children have developed, because your child has changed a lot, and encouraging your soldier to maybe to take time for those important conversations with the older children. Go on dates, the one-on-one time when they're ready to have that time where they can just go out and find out what's been happening. For older children specifically, but we're, even a 3-year-old, praise him specifically for how they're, things that they have done, but to help out, but also things that they've accomplished. I think praise works really well. And some parents wonder about how much that they should share. I've had soldiers that say, how much should I tell my son or daughter about my experience? And I think, again, going back to development, finding out, that maybe look at where they're at developmentally before and share more on a feeling level is important, as opposed to maybe some specific details. The listening actively and sensitively, what does that mean? I think it's just being present and listening to your child, listening to what they have to say. For the soldier is going to be critical, because again, they're making that connection on the emotional level. And then just easing back into the family routines. I mean, I think that that's something that can be really challenging. Watching how things have changed. And again, opening up that communication routine. Discipline is an issue that presents itself in any family situation, but specifically as children have changed and gone into different developmental stages and the family dynamics have changed, it's important to talk about discipline as a family. And I've got some really good resources on discipline as well. And if you guys have some specific questions, we can talk about that as well. And then there's resources and information for extra help if you guys are looking for that. This is an interesting slide in that every family is different in terms of how they want to connect with how they want to reconnect as a family. Some people say they want to be alone together with their spouse and then reconnect with their children. And other people say, no, we just have to be together as a group. And I would have to say that either one is okay depending on how your family is. And so it just depends on the unique situation and what you feel will work best for you and your family. And sometimes a spouse wants to just give everything over, and other times they want to kind of keep control of it. And so it's important for the soldier to know how the spouse is feeling about, hey, I've been, doing this and I'm not ready to give up control, or I'm really feeling like I'm so tired, and I'm trying to negotiate some of that. It's important. These are just some helping strategies, some things to think about. I think routines are really important, and keeping those routines for children that will really help them in their lives, and recognizing the importance of a regular medical checkup if there's things that you feel concerned about. Also, I think it's really important to solicit help from the teachers. I think it's really important that the school districts know what your family is going through in terms of the change of not only deployment, which I'm assuming a lot of the ones that are in school know, what's happening, but also educating them about reintegration is really important. Because for a lot of families, they don't really know, or teachers don't really know, what that may be like. They think, oh, good, your soldier's home. So I think that educating them, and there's a handout on helpful and unhelpful behaviors for providers and teachers as well that you can pass out. And then also just seeking help when necessary. When you feel like, okay, we've tried these other things and we need to get some help, and I'll share some resources with you. There are common reactions that children exhibit during the deployment cycle, during reintegration, and these are just some common things that you might see. An increase in a change in behavior can be really normal and a normal result of change. But anything that's elongated or protracted change in your child's behavior is a red flag, something that you, if you've noticed a change where it just continues and persists, then it's a good time to look for resources. These are some potential red flags in infants and toddlers. These are potential red flags in preschool and school-age children.
When you know your kids, the red flags are when you know something
Yes.
is wrong. You just, you have that gut instinct that there's something not right.
Absolutely, and parents know their children better than anyone else. So, those are some things to just pay attention to. And then, as the Brutuses talked about, reintegration is really a new beginning. I mean, it really is. It's a new normal, and it's a chance to learn to love your child in a new way. And I put this in here too, just to as a year-long calendar to let you know that it's normal for it to take time to move through the process, and just to give yourself time. And then these are just some resources, some websites and things to think of, but we've got a ton of websites in the back, or tons of information in the back as well. So that's kind of a quick overview of some of the things that your soldier will hear. And I'm wondering, what are some questions or some things that you might have? Let's open it up now and talk about some things that you're wondering about, or questions you might have.
I guess I'm kind of concerned about the role of discipline. Mm-hmm. Just in the fact that 2-week period was really kind of a good glimpse, from what I understand, of what's going to happen when they come home. So I already know that we have issues to address. In that discipline was pretty much non-existent, only when it really became necessary, because he just wanted to spend time with his son and didn't want to be the bad guy, and so mom became the bad guy. And so just making sure that there's a good transition when he comes home. I mean, I understand that he's going to let things slide. Oh, you can stay up later, or oh, you can do this, or oh, it's okay, he doesn't need to have that, or I'm going to, go and buy him all these toys because that's just what I do, or whatever it may be, and just maybe some tools to address that. So when we come home on the same page as far as discipline, those types of things go.
Now, your son is 4.5.
Yep.
And would you say that before was Dad a disciplinarian, or were you more the disciplinarian, or did you share?
I think we shared it.
Mhm.
Yep. I mean, I think he was probably less strict than I was, but I think part of that had to do with the fact that he's been gone twice, you know, or was gone and knew he was going to be gone again, and just trying to make the most of the time that he's got. I mean, he's a good dad, and he will discipline when he needs to, but I feel like I'm mean.
You feel like the bad guy?
Yeah.
I feel like trying to live with my husband.
I think that it makes sense to me why it's happening, but like you said, you want to be able to have a shared, relationship in terms of disciplining. Is that something that you think that you could talk to him about in terms of?
I think so.
Yeah, and I think that there's some really good tools out there in terms of disciplining. And I think sometimes as parents, we kind of get confused with discipline and punishment. We think that if we discipline our child, to make it stick, it's got to be punishing. And actually, really the goal of discipline is to teach. So actually, being able to, maybe reframe it or talk about it as a couple and say, hey, we're actually helping him develop self-discipline, which is really the goal. And how do we do that? And what does it look like? And being able to talk about those types of things, and maybe he sees himself or you see yourself as a bad guy, when actually it can be a really loving thing, even though your child's mad about it. And what do you find are the things that your child really gets upset about, or that you have to discipline him for right now?
Just little things like stopping watching TV at a certain time, or picking up after himself, or going to bed at a certain time. When Jared came home, it was, I think part of it, not necessarily discipline, is like when I go to the store, he doesn't get something every time we go to the store. And when Dad was home, he got something every time we went to the store. Different things like that, where the parenting is totally different. Wasn't before, but so I just chalked it off to, well, he's only home for 2 weeks, so let him do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And then I had to teach Grayson that that's not how we do things, So it took a couple times at the store with some fits, So it felt like I was reparenting all over again. So that was a frustration. So I understand that that's something that we're going to have to go, that I've gone through when he comes home, to discuss. So just look at some of the resources, and I think it's a great idea to sit down and talk to him about it and explain why it's important that we're the same, not that I think he's doing it wrong.
Well, pay attention to his feelings. I mean, with overindulgence of buying things, there's a lot of guilt in there. I wasn't here for this, I wasn't here for that, I want to make up for it. And that guilt comes into play, and that's a feeling. It's nothing good or wrong with it. It's just something to deal with.
Yeah, and I think that if you have that conversation about it on a feeling level, and I think it's hard. It's hard to get to those important conversations because they're hard. I mean, it's hard if in talking with the soldiers. I've done some classes with the soldiers, and it's talking on that feeling level is very difficult, because the soldier has also had to face some really painful feelings as well, and it's hard to, depending on your family and your makeup, sometimes it's hard to come out with, well, this is really how I'm feeling about this, but I think that being able to have those conversations, and then also it sounds like you've got a lot of really good tools already in terms of discipline, like you yourself and probably your husband as well, but there are some good books out there that are helpful, but also some really good resources through early childhood family education.
Right, and there's a list here if you want to take these in from Moorhead and some of the surrounding area as well that I've put together. Just places to go for support. What ECFE wants to do is support you. It's a place where you go and discuss issues like this with parents who are going through similar stages and similar things. Not all of them have spouses deployed. but we try to just be empathetic and support you in what you need. And support each other. I was reading an article recently that says you don't fight because one of you is wrong and one of you is right. It's because you don't feel acknowledged. And so making sure you feel validated and talking with each other too.
That's a huge piece, I think, for all of us, even for our kids. And there's also some resources in the back on dealing with anger, and there's through the University of Minnesota Extension, there's a program called Positive Parenting that's got, I really like how they have it laid out with the guidance tools, you know, and just some ideas, because sometimes you just need to kind of put your heads together and think about, okay, how are we going to deal with this behavior, you know, and there's just some good ideas about specific tools to deal with.
One piece, and I don't know if you have it for your 3-year-old, but I did send it out for the Elmo.
Oh, the TLC, yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
And, you know, my kid associates with Elmo really well, so when Elmo's dad had to go to war, like, it kind of validated him that, you know, he's just not the only kid going through it. It's pretty cool, but, so I don't know if you've seen it, but it was, we watched it a few times, but it was really kind of nice to see, so, and it was free.
You
in
know,
the mail.
I usually have a case of those when I go, but if they're sitting in the Bloomington Armory. So I can tell you the website to go on, and you can download it for free. And it's Sesame, well, I'll show it to you. It's
SesameWorkshops.org.
Yeah, SesameWorkshop.org. And I can show you, this is what it looks like. And it's a wonderful, a really wonderful resource. And did you look at the section for grown-ups?
Not yet.
Oh my gosh. You got to bring your Kleenex when you watch it. It's really would be really great for grandmas and grandpas to see too. But it's got a section on there for grown-ups, and it's actually just wonderful. And it gives a lot of important information on pre-deployment, deployment, and then reintegration. And I would also say that this is a really good resource for teachers as well. Because I think for those of us that have not had military experience, it's really important to see, you know, for them to understand it a little bit more. And like you said, what kid doesn't like Elmo? I think you guys would probably like this one too. No? You're not into Elmo, huh?
He's too big for Elmo.
Yeah.
I liked it.
But for a younger one, for sure. I don't know. My big girls liked, I guess it's because they were girls, but they liked the Elmo ones.
Yeah, and I can speak from a person who doesn't have anybody in the military at this point, where it's very informative for me. Questions I would think to ask, and then realize after watching the video would be fairly inappropriate to ask somebody, and I wouldn't have thought of it before. I wouldn't have any idea. And I know in a discussion earlier today, somebody said, "I can't believe the questions people ask of my military men. Why are they asking these questions?" And they're curious, and they have no idea what's appropriate and inappropriate.
Right. And you might have even had people asking you some questions in school, you know, asking your children in school or whatever that are upsetting to them. Maybe even a teacher saying something. I know in several of my groups we had situations like that where, you know, kids were saying things or teachers were saying things, and, you know, that makes it really difficult.
It might be a great video for any of your daycares or teachers to have to use with the group as a group problem solving, showing the group of 4-year-olds in preschool the video and talking about it.
Some things she had said about her husband coming home and buying her son stuff and everything in his home. And I can understand his feeling of guilt of being gone for a year and a half now. And I want to give him this, and it's just this one time. But if that's a rule that you've had in your house for the last 18 months, how can they come in and come back home and jump in and say, "Oh, I'm just going to do, you know, I just got home." What's that saying about your rules, that your guidelines that you had laid down as a mother for 18 months? And then I'm not trying to, I don't know, be mean to him either, but I mean, you were the head of the household for those 18 months, and that's a guideline that you had set, and now he's going to come home and say, "Well, I'm just going to do it this one time." Well, then the kids are going to know, "Oh, Dad will do this. We can get away with it because Dad just got home." Because this happened when he was gone to Bosnia. I had grounded the oldest one because of the way he had been acting in the morning before school. My husband turns around by the end of the school day, he ungrounded him. Because he just got home. And it's really frustrating.
Yeah, I think too, it's having those conversations and really being able to negotiate. And there again, it's that whole issue of, at times we as spouses feel like we don't want to give up the power and control because it's frightening to have to be given that responsibility to be the single parent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very stressful. And when you finally get that canoe righted, and then to have someone come in and try and flip it over again, it's very, very stressful and very hard and very angering.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I think it's really good to have that communication, with each other and be able to say, I'm feeling really upset about this, because I tried really hard to have, things to be like this, and and to be able to negotiate and talk about that is really important because, every family, is navigating through their experience as their own unique family, and that's why I think communication is so huge and so important. And it is. And it is very stressful. It can be very stressful, and stressful on the kids too. What about anyone else? Have any specific things that maybe about you guys? Things are going. How old is your little one again?
6.
6. You have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old,
Yep.
right? How are things going in school for them?
Okay.
Good. So the school's been pretty supportive?
They've been very supportive, actually.
Oh, that's great.
So
That's wonderful.
they've done things within each of their classes and school-wide to acknowledge it. So.
That's great. Are you guys in the Moorhead area?
No, we're in Fergus Falls.
Okay, you're in Fergus
So,
too.
yeah.
I hear Fergus has got a pretty active, or there's a pretty big group from Fergus
Mhm.
Falls in terms of, that's good. So you've got a pretty good, like a support, like a family readiness group as
Mhm.
well? That's good.
Yeah, we've got a really good readiness group. So.
I know we had just had a talk in our last group about someone from Fergus wanting to maybe solicit ECFD to get a military group together and have parents in military.
Right, easy if you could do that, or I know a few of the pastors down in Fergus who would be happy to get a faith-based organization with a group of military families for support too. I don't know if you'd ever be interested in that or want that, but nobody knows you need it until we ask.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So any other thoughts or questions? Did you get what you needed in terms of resources and information?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be taking the time to read through it and
Does it seem a little overwhelming, all that stuff?
all of this stuff does today, but we'll have time to process.
And you've got a wonderful support group coming with
Yeah.
you too.
Yeah, I think sometimes it takes a while to assimilate the information, and if you have any questions or concerns, you can, in your packet there's information of people that you can call. I know that this information will be repeated on the website as well, at the GUARD website, and